know what's more fun than riding roller coasters or traveling the world? You guessed it, getting out of debt. At least that's what our guest thinks. See, she was born with a copy of QuickBooks in her hands, and now she writes books on money. Even though she's a spender at heart, she's a saver in practice. You might find this Brentwood High alum brewing up a drink at Smart Money Happy Hour or serving up a slice of financial peace. Yes, she lives in Nashville, but Rocky Top will always be home, sweet home to she. She hosts as many podcasts as she has kids, and she's written even more books than that. She doesn't smoke Winstons, but she sure does marry them. You're about to be glad for what you have with her on the RO podcast. So for now, I want you to give yourself a gift by saving a few minutes to spend with our guest, Rachel Nicole Ramsey Cruze.
Joey, I'm going to give an applause here. And you got my middle, Rachel Nicole Ramsey Cruze. I have not heard Nicole in probably 15 years. So
this is where the story gets weird, Rachel. This is where it gets weird. I pulled up your wedding announcement to go. That's how deep I had to go. I had to do some Googling around to find the wedding announcement for you and Winston to find your actual middle name.
Oh, that's what it was. 2009 really did you good.
Yeah, the internet still keeps that stuff.
Yeah, it does, which is scary, which is why we need you in technology boundaries. That's probably very real. Well, Joey, thanks for having me. I so appreciate it.
It's so good to see you. Appreciate it. You are a Brentwood High Bruin, by the way. You brew up some Smart Money Happy Hour. So I'm excited to have you, Rachel. We'll get into this, but I have benefited from, and my family has benefited from you for years. This is the principles you teach. The principles are the principles we've taught our kids by when it comes to money, and the principles that we live by. And so it's fun to have you here, and you've done that for many others. I saw you speak at Buckhead Church years ago before we met, and when we lived in Atlanta. So just a start with gratitude for the way that you approach such a difficult topic and make it so understandable for people like me.
Oh, well, thank you. I know money. It is an interesting one though, because I feel like it comes with everyone's kind of baggage, right? All their stories, their mistakes and all of it. And so to guide people out of the shame and the guilt and all those emotions that can so easily be attached to money and give them hope, right? And a plan that, hey, nobody's perfect when it comes to this subject, but it can be a hard one and a stressful one to navigate.
Well, I'd actually love to start there. And we're going to talk about I'm Glad for What I Have, which is just a wonderful children's book that you finally wrote a book that I could read, which I appreciate.
On your reading level.
That's nice of you. But you talk about money. See, I was going to say you talk about money, but you don't really talk about money. I think you especially, you're talking about something much more deep at the core. Will you talk about from yourself when you think about what you do? Yes, it's the surface is you're talking about money, but you're talking about stuff that's so much deeper. Will you talk about the core of what you believe that you are really talking about in your message?
Yeah, I mean, I think with money, it's interesting because I think a lot of people focus on the numbers and interest rates and, mortgage rates, whatever the thing is, which I can go down that road all day too. But at the core of understanding money, you have to understand yourself. And so much of our money mistakes and the habits of money come not just because of money, but because of us as people. And so there's a whole side of money of contentment and generosity and understanding who I am as a person and my story, even how you grew up, your personality, all of that influences how you handle money. And so when you can get and fix yourself, right, then your money suddenly starts to do the things you want it to do. And so a lot of people call in, when I host the Ramsey show and it's, they have a marriage, their spouse won't get on board or their kids, it's these external problems where the truth is, the money's just the symptom. The issue isn't the money; it is the deeper relational issues and with ourselves that we have to realize. So, yeah, helping people navigate, I think, understanding that behavior change and understanding that we have to be healthy people in a sense in order to handle our money well, because it's a reflection of who we are.
Well, and it's a dumb question, but sound like a child asking it. But why? Why is money associated with all of those feelings, with the euphoria and the dread and the happiness and the joy and the terror and all of that stuff? Why is money so attached to all of those things, attached maybe more than anything, attached to emotions?
Yeah, because I think it's attached to every part of our lives, and it's the one sense, currency, I guess, if you will, that
Mhm.
allows our lives to move. And so if you want,
Mm.
your kid to go be a, travel sports kid, you have to
Yeah.
have money to fund that, right? And that gets to
Mm.
the dream of what they are. So it is this utility that we have to have, and it's a utility that usually is attached to every part of our lives. And so that's
Mm.
where I feel like that magnification of, if we don't handle it well, the stress of that ends up becoming stress on other parts of our lives too. And so that is one thing too, of kind of reshaping and being like, so many people, their money is the thing that dictates their life so much. And we want to reverse that perspective. And that's why I always say, we want you to control your money and not your money control you. Because
Mm.
when you're the one telling it what to do and you're in charge of it, suddenly it's in the right position of where it should always be, in that sense. But sometimes that script can get flipped. But yeah, it's an interesting one to navigate, but it touches every part of our lives.
It does, and so much of our upbringings, and you talk a lot about that in your books as well. So when someone says, and you all at Ramsey, and you talk, hey, let your money work for you, but there are, like you said, the travel sports, for example, there are very practical things that maybe someone would say that I need, but at some point, what is it? What do they say? There's more, month at the end of the money or something like that,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So how do you balance out a message that says, hey, you need to get your financial house in order, when there are very practical needs that people have and things that people need or say they need, where they say, I just don't think I can. I think there's just more that I need than I have,
Yeah. Well, I
than I
think
have able to spend.
yeah, totally. And I think as we sit here today, at the beginning of a new year of 2024, I think there are two competing elements of kind of what you
Mm.
asked that I see. And there's, the lifestyle, the inflation, if you will, the actual math of what's going on. And people are feeling that today. It's actually come back down a little bit. But if you remember last year, I'm like, you'd go to buy eggs and they would like cost as much as a semester in college or something. You're like, wait, what? Like, how much am I buying? So people really felt that, and it took a toll because 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So you throw a wrench in the grocery budget for people and upping it $200, $300, $400 a month, it majorly affects people, not just in one area, right? So there's a real math thing, and I feel like Gen Z and sometimes the younger end of the millennials are like, well, all of our parents got to buy houses when they were $20,000, and now we have to, and there's a truth about the housing market today that it is, right? So I think there is a hard reality that, the numbers, they don't have emotion, but they are what they are, right? There's
Mm.
that side. But then I also think there's a side to us, to that behavior that we have to put in the equation too. And you can call it lifestyle creep, you could call it our expectations of life, but I think what we expect today and how our life should be day to day is a higher expectation than it was back in the 80s or the 90s, right? Like, you look back and you're like, we just didn't expect, when we rolled down our car window, this is the motion we did growing up, right? And now you expect everything just to be so easy. So there is a level of convenience and luxury that we experience as a norm today
Mm.
that becomes an expectation. And so
Yeah.
when we talk about needs versus wants, this is what's really hard for people, is because what they feel like is a need, in turn, really, it is a want. But in our world today, it's shaped and it's so ingrained in us that it is a need, because we see it all over social media. We see it,
Yeah.
whether it's reality TV. I mean, we are the generation that has a peek into people's lives unlike anything before. I mean, even podcasts and YouTube, right? I mean, you could do any platform. There is so much out there. And because of that exposure, I think we've gotten comfortable with this level. And to ask people to come down here and make sacrifices is really hard. And it sucks. People don't want to go backwards,
Yeah.
right, in life. But I think those are the two parts of the equation when someone comes to us and says, what do I do? I'm living paycheck to paycheck, right? Or
Mm.
I just don't feel like there's any margin. I think those two things have to be addressed. And then you said it in my intro, but it's true too. I mean, I think debt and payments play a huge part in people living that cycle of just paycheck to paycheck too. So you do have to look at, hey, what am I choosing to do with my money and what's best for
Mm.
my family long term? So all that's kind of in the, sorry, that was a
Yeah.
big answer, but kind of all in the equation. That's all true. But
Yeah.
we have to be adults and deal with that.
And then as a parent, and then again, we have a lot of parents who listen. So as a parent, it becomes hard as well to then, as you talk about money, because there's a certain level you want to teach your kids about stewardship. You want to teach your kids about working hard towards something, but at the same time, it's almost, you don't want to teach a real scarcity mentality as well. And so that's where it becomes really, really difficult. I remember when I was growing up, my parents, my dad's business went through a really difficult time. My parents sat us down and said, hey, this is we're going to provide your basic needs. If you need more, then you have to go do it on your own. And at the time, like you said, that kind of sucked. That didn't feel really good. But as I look back, that was one of the greatest lessons I ever had in my life, because at that point, and I've done it all. I sold candy on the bus and was a little league umpire, and list any job, working at a gas station, pizza delivery boy, all that stuff. And I think out of that, I came with a healthy perspective of money. But with my kids, there's still this, on one side, like I said, this one side of, oh, you all don't, understand what it's like to work for something. And then the other side, I don't want to teach this scarcity, tight-fisted mentality. So it's such a balance. There's no question in there, but I'm sure you hear those sorts of things, all the whole array of spectrum. And then how does that, as a parent, maybe here's the question, how's that a parent, how do you learn how to not let your upbringing so inform you to an unhealthy way of then saying, well, I'm not going to do it like my parents did, type of thing?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because so much of how we're shaped foundationally on any part of life, not just money, right, comes from that household. I mean, a lot of therapists say that your classroom growing up was your household, and that is where you learn so many lessons. And so, I think we all have lessons that we take from that and want to apply to our own lives. There's some lessons we want to unlearn and be like, we're going to do that differently. But yeah, I think the healthiest mentality is understanding two parts of how money's communicated in a household. And it's communicated verbally, but it's also communicated emotionally. And so if you grew up in a home where money was communicated, and it was communicated verbally, sometimes if there was a high tense emotional side, the verbal was not great. It was stress that the parents are laying the issues on the kids, or there's fighting between the parents, right? So we don't want that kind of communication, but we do want a calm presence, calm emotional, which usually means there's some level of control or some level of a plan that we know what we're doing. And then that communication comes out of that. But I mean, I even got, Joey, I've caught myself the other day, because my kids, they are just little consumers. I'm like, I don't even know what's happened. I'm like, that's why I wrote this book. I was like, my kids have to learn contentment because I'm such a spender too. So I'm like, I see so much of me, sometimes my habits in them. But I started to say, oh, we don't have the money for that, or it's not in the budget. Like I would give them a kind of a scarcity easy out in my head, because I'm like, if they don't think there's money, then that ends the conversation. Versus the reality is, no, I do have the $7 to buy the bracelet on Amazon that my 6-year-old asked for, right? I have that money. And so I'm like, but it takes more effort as a parent to sit down and say, hey, listen, this just isn't a wise purchase, and this is mom's money. Maybe you can work and earn it, and we can, go down that lane and talk about that. But also, there's so many bracelets up in your room. Let's go up there. But it takes effort as a parent. It's easier just to shut down the conversation. But I have found that I'll use these scarcity statements that are lies, basically. I'm like, and I'm like, and I don't want that ingrained in them either. I mean, I grew up with, it's not in the budget. It's not in the budget. And for some people, that's going to be the truth. A parent is going to do a budget, and there is not money to go and sign up for 20 summer camps that the kid wants to plug into, right? There's not money. So there is a reality of money. I want them to know that money's finite. There is a certain amount we have right now that we can use, and that's a real lesson. But yet the belief that we're still going to enjoy our life. There's still ways to make more if we want to do that too. But our happiness isn't hung on these things either, right? So it's kind of that whole conversation. But it's a tricky one, because the tactical side is so easy. Teaching them to give, save, and spend, or for me it is. Like, we can do a chore chart, like we can hammer that stuff out all day. But it's the other lessons that the character that's built, that's almost more important, I think, than even the tactical at times, getting their heart in the right position. But
I totally agree. And I'm curious you dedicated this book to Caroline, you say, who is a spender just like you. So does Caroline ever throw it back on you? Be like, hey mom, do you really need that? You need that dress, huh? Seems like you got a few in the closet. She ever throw that at you?
She'll randomly be like, another pair of shoes. Yeah, she did say that the other day. And I was like, well, you play with them around the house, so maybe so.
Oh, I like that. Boy, that's ninja mom right there. That's good. That's good quick thinking. Man.
She's my little mini me, though, for sure.
I love that. So you talk, one thing I really like about when especially in Love Your Life, Not Theirs, you talk about kind of those core things in the habits. And I love when you talk about habits, start with what you believe about yourself. And then, so you go to like this very core piece of, because that book is, you got 7 habits that are so practical and effective, but it does begin, like you said, with the beginning part. How do you view yourself? I'd love to hear a little bit about that concept, and then I want to talk about 2 of the habits. So the comparison and making a plan. So before we talk about those 2 things, will you talk about that? The habits are what you believe about yourself. What do you mean by that exactly, and what you believe about yourself, and that kind of shaping your habits?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there has to be a level of awareness about yourself as you interact with money, because quickly money, and as someone that goes to scripture for life
Mm-hmm.
and direction, there's a lot of warnings about money in there, and I see that very clearly, and so I think that there's something to be said about that money can be a tool and a gift to better your life and give to others and be generous, and it can play a great role. But if you yourself don't know, not even how to handle it, but also you use it almost to your own detriment to
Mm.
fulfill something in you that you're wanting and needing, money is perfectly there to do that, which I think the danger is very obvious there. And so yeah, there's a sense that you
Yeah.
really have to be grounded in who you are so that this tool is used properly and not to further,
Mm.
whether it's bad habits or again trying to fulfill something in you that so easily can be with money. So
Yeah.
that there's a caution there that I think people have to
Mm.
have.
Love that. And you touched on it earlier, but the 2 habits you talk about, one, I'd love to hear about the comparison trap, frankly, that people can get into too. Will you talk about that, the habit, and how can you can maybe establish yourself or push against that comparison, recognize it, and then make sure that it's not something that you're really kind of striving towards, even subconsciously?
Yeah, the comparison game, it is so real. And honestly, even since writing that book, because it's been a few years since I published that
Hmm.
book, I read an article even just recently before Christmas, and it was talking about how comparison almost is a natural bent in who we are as people, because you even go back to, you know, tribal settings, or, like what was
Yeah.
going on. You had to size yourself up either against the enemy, or even when we hunted for food, it was like your
Mm.
prey, right? Like there's a natural comparison that is instinctive in us. And so as I was reading this, I was thinking about, I was like, that is so interesting, because I do talk about jealousy and envy that gets trapped in that comparison game. But I think that is the problem. I'm like, I think there is a natural bent in who we're created to be, right? That you kind of size yourself up and there's a
Yeah.
natural comparison. And I don't know if that in of itself is the thing we want to fight against. I think it's
Mm.
when you see something that you want and suddenly you create a story in your head about that person because they have it and you don't, or
Mm.
somebody that maybe has something and there's a jealousy, there's an envy, you don't want them to have it but you want it. It's this, it starts to become this game, and that's where the red flags go up, where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, that's not my job to create a story in my head. We did an event together, Joey, and I remember saying on the stage, because it's true, I'm like, for so long I created stories in my head. If I saw something that people had, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, they probably just swiped their credit card. They're probably deeply in debt because they have that. And I'm like, why do there I am creating a story to make myself feel
Mm.
better by almost putting someone else down, where
Wow.
I don't even know. I don't even know if that's the reality, right?
Yeah.
And so that comparison game, I think, can naturally spring up in us. And so I don't want people to beat themselves up on that, because I think there is kind of a natural instinct, knee-jerk reaction that happens. It's when it goes the next step and the next and the next and the next, that,
Yeah.
man, you got to be aware, because your joy is just robbed right in the middle of that. Like, and Craig Groeschel, he has a great quote about comparison, though. He said, comparison either makes you inferior or superior, and neither
Mm.
honors God. And it
Mm.
is true. Like, if it doesn't just stop, like you kind of size it up, you figure it out, and you move on with your day, like, good for them, right? And you just move on. But the moment we start judging or jealousy plays in, I think is the danger.
Well, and the real thing there is exactly what you said. We're going around, like you said, with a natural bent towards that. It's a natural thing that we do, and I think what you're describing is just, can we be aware of it in ourselves? Because we're not aware of it. We're just going through life because it's a natural thing to do. You wouldn't really second guess the fact that feeling that you should push back against that thing that you're naturally feeling, and so it's just probably, maybe for people listening right now, it's just maybe taking a little bit of note throughout the day when you feel yourself doing that, and then just say, okay, I'm getting, even if you don't stop it, just saying, okay, that's a comparison. You know what I mean? Just like
Yes, just
building an
even name
awareness
it.
around that. Yeah,
Yes. Oh,
exactly.
100%. Yeah. And I think even for me, where I can get in trouble is I see something someone has and suddenly it doesn't turn into jealousy, but discontentment on my end where I'm like, oh, now
Yeah.
I want that. And now I'm thinking
Mm,
about that. And now, right. And your whole day is kind of shifted, or even that hour or whatever the time frame is that is unnecessary. And it's my discontentment at that point
yeah.
that is being shaken. And so, I think you're exactly right though. It's just the awareness, which is so
Yeah.
easy just to kind of
Mm,
have a fog throughout the day and you just
so
go. But when
true.
you start checking in with yourself, it is amazing.
Yeah.
Those thoughts that come in and just to be aware.
Heath Wilson, Aro's co-founder, his wife Misty, it has a great line on comparison, and that's if you're going to compare yourself to one part of someone's life, you have to compare yourself to all of it. If you want one
Yeah.
piece of it, you have to have all of it. And typically, like you said, that's one that you probably don't want to do. When you put it, when you stack up that one thing you really want and you compare it in the breadth of your life, you realize, okay, I really have the things that I want. But there's some gaps, sure, but
That's right.
that's not worth replacing all of it. So that's a good little fight I've had
I love
about
that.
comparison. One way to stop it, I think.
For sure. And
Um,
it's that, and it's the thing we all know about social media. So I'm just preaching to the choir, I'm sure. But,
yeah.
it's one snapshot, right? And especially on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, it can be such a dangerous place because you see 15 seconds of someone's life and you're exactly
Yeah.
right. You paint a whole picture of something and you're like, if you want
Mm.
that 15-second picture, you gotta get the whole 360 and you may not
Right.
want the whole 360, right?
Yeah.
But that it's so easy just to fall in that
Mm.
trap.
Yeah. And now this is, and I teed it up in the intro, but making a plan, the give, save, spend, which is as just like anything that's transformational for your life. It is a very basic concept, but it's one of those things that's hard to implement. It's just like exercise, right? When we all know how to burn calories, you eat less, you move more, but it's still really hard to do. And this is another one of those that it's such a good, amazing thing, especially when you start it young in your kids, just having that give, save, spend, and then not just saying it's for the kids, but having it for yourself as well. Will you just unpack this making a plan and the concept of give, save, spend?
Yes, yeah. This is what it kind of ends up boiling down to is a budget, which
Yep.
most people hate the B word and they're like, "Oh my gosh." And for some people it
You're not
does
supposed
feel
to
like
say the B word on here, by the
the
way.
B word. We won't say the B word, yeah.
That's okay.
But it can feel like, "Oh my gosh, if I live on a budget that automatically means I can't have any fun or
Mm,
I'm restricted to do what I really want to do," especially for us spenders. That's kind of the knee jerk reaction. And so framing it up and realizing that a budget, it doesn't limit your freedom. It gives you freedom. It
mm,
gives you permission to spend, to save, to give, to do with your income what you want it to do. And I think that's what's hard is for so
mm.
many people, they get around to tax time and they look back and they're like, I made what last year? And they're like, and I have literally no clue where it went, right? That's how a lot of people live.
Right.
And so just to be intentional, it really is. I'm like, it is a different mindset to say, I'm going to have a plan for what happens with my paycheck. So we teach a zero-based budget. So your income for the month minus all of your expenses, including giving and saving, should equal zero. And that priority is give, save, and spend, just like you were saying. Because giving is such a one of the most important things to be doing with your money. Even if you don't have a lot, I always say give a little until you can give a lot, but be giving
Mm,
something. That practice, that habit is so crucial. And like, that's the first thing you do. And so even if you're not a spiritual person, find something, a cause, something that you are passionate about and just practice that. And then saving, be paying yourself something. And so we talk about emergency funds, or that can even be investing later on. And then you're going to pay bills and you'll do a prioritization of your four walls, which is food, shelter, utilities, and transportation. And then look down and, insurance, childcare, like these things that have to be paid. If you have debt, the payments, so you don't get behind. And then look down at everything else, whether it's fun money or clothes or things that are more in the want category, may feel like a
hmm
need, but I would stretch to say, try to make it a want down below. And it's honestly math. It's that income
mm.
minus all those categories equals zero. And we tell people it takes about 3 months to get this right, about 90
Huh.
days. And so the first month is a disaster. Usually you're trying to figure out, and you're sick usually when you realize, oh my gosh, how much do we spend on restaurants? And like once you start actually tracking the stuff, you're like, oh my gosh. And you'll change things throughout the month. The second month it'll get better. And by the third month, you'll really get in this rhythm. But you're exactly right. The parallel between like the health world and the financial world runs so
Yeah.
similar. because it is behavior. That's it. You can know the fifth grade math, and what to do,
Yeah.
but actually doing it and implementing it. But we have an
Mm.
app called Every Dollar, and honestly, Joey, it makes it so easy. We help walk you through the zero-based budget. It's color coded. You got graphs, you got charts. If you do the premium version, it connects to your bank account, so your actual charges, like if you go to Costco, it will drop in the app, so you
Wow.
can drag and drop it, and it'll help keep track of how much you have in each category. But it's a practice. I mean, it really is,
Mm.
and my husband and I, we've been doing this for 12 years, and we still budget every month. I just made the budget for the first of the month this morning with him. So, I mean, it is a practice we do, but it gives me peace. It really does. And I
Mm.
think this out of control feeling that we can sometimes feel, or not even, I think subconsciously, because to our point earlier, we may not even be aware of how we're feeling about it. But when you actually have control over it and there's a plan and there's numbers that you're actually physically seeing, there's something about that too. It's not just in your head,
Mm.
you're seeing it. And it does something to this control aspect that we can't control a lot. We can't control the Fed or inflation or mortgage rates. Like, we can't control that stuff, but we
Yeah.
can control when our paycheck hits and what we do with it.
Mm.
And it goes so much further when you actually have purpose for it. And so, yeah, so it's not to be a buzzkill. It's to really help bring a level of peace.
Well, I have to think that this also, that practice, not only for you and your husband, but for other couples as well, I got to think that practice aligns you together. That's actually something that you are unified on, which creates a stronger bond in marriage. Is that too much of a stretch?
Oh, no. I was going to say we could have a whole other podcast
Mm.
on money and marriage because it's a big topic. Because a lot of couples, they don't work on the same team in that sense. They kind of run their two different lanes in it. And back to what we were saying earlier at the beginning of this podcast, how money's about you. It's about you. It's not always about the money, but it's about you. So when you work with your spouse and you unite on this subject and do a budget together, you share a checking account, like you really see yourself as a team, you suddenly are talking about, hey, what's going on this month? You start looking at the calendar. You
Mm.
start talking about goals. Hey, next summer, do we want to take a big trip? Like, you actually start
Yeah.
talking about your life, and there's some vulnerability there. That can be scary for a lot of people, but I really do. I encourage people to press into that because there is a intimacy that is
Mm.
created when you share something like that, like money with your spouse. It removes a lot of the money fights that could be happening, and I think it just creates this team mentality that we're in this together. We're not
Yeah.
against each other or running on these two separate lanes. So there's power in that.
It's such an interesting thing that, and we talk a bunch about intimacy and how kind of technology can get in the way of that. And again, the opportunity we have, but it's such an interesting thing that this money alignment can lead to intimacy. And I really do believe it. I really do agree with it. It's just you're working towards a similar goal, and that's just united. I mean, that's all intimacy is, just closeness, right? And it's
That's
full
right.
transparency. On the give, save, spend, I thought about you a few weeks ago. My daughter is 13. She's been doing a lot of dog sitting, and she has her give, save, spend down. I mean, she's really, and she's like me. She's a spender like me too. And so, but she has disciplined herself towards that, and she's really great at it. And she also, like all 13-year-old girls in the world, loves Taylor Swift. So we're sitting there driving, we're in the truck, and she goes, "Daddy, do you think Taylor Swift has a give, save, spend envelope?"
We pray that for her. We want that for Taylor.
I hope so. That would be some enormous envelopes, but I sure hope she does.
Oh, that's so great. Oh my
I've been
gosh.
very excited to tell you that.
I love it. Love T Swift. What a girl.
So
What a lady.
So on the, I love the beginning step. This is a perfect segue into, I'm glad for what I have, because I do believe, and I think you would agree, when talking to your kids about money, it's so important, if you have a partner in crime there, that you and your partner need to be aligned on it. And I love the idea of talking to your kids very, very early. So you've written multiple bestsellers, all kind of geared towards adults on financial, on being smart with finances and habits and practices and going down to that. But this is written, I'm glad for what I have, is written a children's book really on contentment for what you do have. Will you tell me about that pivot away from the books you have written into writing this book, and what kind of sparked this on, and what was the core of, hey, this is the message I want to get out?
Yeah. I have three kids at home. They're 8, 6, and 4. And I guess it was almost probably 18 months ago, almost 2 years. My little one made the comment and said, asked the question, Mom, is the Amazon guy coming today? And I was like, oh dear God, what have I done? Like, what have I done? And I just thought, man, it is,
Mm,
I want my kids to have a perspective about stuff, right? And for a kid's view, it's their toys or whatever it is. But just the idea that having stuff is not wrong. You can have
mm,
nice things. We just don't want our nice stuff to have us. And that's where the contentment piece comes into play that, our stuff is not bad, but it will not fulfill you the way you think it will. And
mm.
kids are so great because they're so in the moment. And, even my daughter, the one I dedicated the book to, we had a conversation a few months ago, but she said, oh, mom, I just, I want to go to this toy store. There's a little local toy store here in Nashville. And she's like, I just get so excited, mom. My stomach, I just turns and my heart starts beating.
Oh
She's
my
like, it's like
gosh. So
physically
cute.
feeling this like consumerism. And I was like, I know, girl. I told her, I said, Caroline, I know that feeling. And I said, but let's be honest. Last time
Mm,
we went to that toy store, what did you buy? And she
mm,
was like, because it was like, 2 weeks before that. And she's racking her brain. I'm like, and that excitement
mm.
that you're feeling right now is going to be gone. And it's going to be gone, honestly, in probably about 45 minutes after we get home.
Yeah.
Because you play with it. And then for sure by the next day after a night's rest, you wake up. Because Joey, I feel that way. Whether it's
Yes.
a pair of earrings or whatever the thing is, I get that. The adrenaline rush, the dopamine hit, that's like very scientifically proven what happens when you spend and you get excited. But it goes away. It goes
Yeah.
away. And we live our lives like a rat in a wheel,
Mm,
continuing to believe like that hit is going to last me. And that coat is, I don't need any more coats. I just need that one coat. Right. And so it's just crazy. And that's me. And
mm.
so with the kids' book, I was like, I just want that message communicated, yes, to the kids, but also I know as a parent how many kids' books I read at night to my kids. I want the message to translate to the parents as well. And so,
Yes.
yeah, there is a bent at the end of this idea that God and his love and what that part of our lives offers is so much more fulfilling long
Mm,
term than our stuff. And so, yeah, it's a little adventure with these animals where they go and gather all these toys and the things that they want, and they realize at the end that it didn't satisfy them the way they thought
mm.
that they would. So it's a really sweet story. I was really excited to write it, and yeah, I think we're turning it into a series. So there's going to be
Oh,
a
I love it.
generosity book and a gratitude book and all of this, because these lessons I think are so crucial for the hearts of our kids, and again for me as an adult
Yeah.
too.
Well, think of, I mean, you think about for a child, the things that you just accept as being factual when you learn them when you're young, when you just learn that God's love is greater than, the things I can get, or if you just have that so deeply ingrained in you, that will eventually lead to two things. One, that's just such a great foundation to have, but two, that begins the next step, the step towards the next discussion. Like you said,
Yes.
that makes a money discussion much easier because you're not just talking about the X's and O's of money, but because you're able, excuse me, to talk more about the X's and O's of money because you have a foundation that you don't have to instill when they're younger, when they're older as kids. So
Yep, that's right.
it's such a great foundation for it. And that's one of the questions that I think I even asked you at the event we did together is, when do you talk to your kids about money? So is this kind of like the precursor discussion for money for parents to have with kids?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it really is geared obviously to a little bit more of the younger ages. And so yeah, I think this is a great starting off point. But kids they can understand, okay, if I do something and I earn money doing that, that's where money comes from. It comes from doing something.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from work. And so these small associations we can make, I mean, as young as 3, 4, 5 years old. And I never want parents, my caution always is don't be legalistic about this.
Yeah.
Joey, I meet some people and they are very hardcore Ramsey people and we appreciate them. But sometimes I'm like, it's okay. Just take a breath. Everything's going to be okay. Your kids are going to be okay. They take it so seriously. So it's like, listen,
Hmm.
we are busy parents. There's so many things pulling at our attention and what we want to teach our kids. So, if this thing is not perfect, you're okay. But I think those basics of, hey, I want my kids to know, where does money come from? I want them to have the dignity as an adult later in life to be able to work and self-sustain. I think there's just something good in that for everyone. I want that for them. I want them to be givers. I want them
Hmm.
to live with an open hand. I want that to be a habit, like you mentioned earlier about the contentment piece and God's love. That I so believe with generosity too. Like when you just grow up in a household that you just give, that's what you do. You're not second guessing it when you're 25 with your paycheck.
Hmm.
It just is such a rhythm in what you've always known. And I want that for my kids,
Yeah.
and to save so they're not broke all the time, as adults, to get that habit in, and then to spend and enjoy, obviously. So,
Yeah.
those are three buckets that you can do. And it kind of sounded, I don't want to allude to it but you mentioned it a little bit, but parents, you can even get envelopes,
Yeah.
the give, save, and spend, and you can just write it on a bank envelope. Or we have banks and stuff here at Ramsey. We have some kids products too, to kind of help enforce these lessons. But yeah, it's just that extra notch of intentionality with them. And then as they get older, yeah, continuing to, I
Yeah.
think, open up your own personal finances to them, and letting them see, bills, or how much the cable costs. You can start actually interacting more the older they get, but it very age appropriate. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a part of life. It's,
And I guess it goes to, as I was preparing and thinking about this, there's I think a misguided in my mind, in some ways, it's just the culture, the currents of the culture is swimming. It's pushing so hard towards comparison and consumerism. Is it, and I think I know your answer, but I'd like to hear you kind of unpack it a little bit. Is it just inevitable that our kids are going to get wrapped up in this? Is this just too hard a battle to fight? Is it a battle worth fighting? Is it one that, no matter what we do, is it going to make a difference? By talking to our kids about this stuff, with the culture kind of pulling them so hard the other way.
No, I don't think it's too hard of a battle to fight. I mean, I think our kids will learn, as they get older, and having them make some mistakes with stuff. I think that's important too. Let them make small, inexpensive mistakes under your roof, so they can feel that if it is a comparison thing, and you're watching your 12-year-old process it, and maybe she wants to do, and maybe there's times you kind of let them safely, right? Make a few of those mistakes, so they can start to learn that on their own. So I do think there's a level of life lessons for them to bump up against culture in our household, that we're there to help guide them.
I like that.
But also, I'm like, I so believe too, so strongly, that our example as parents, and this is what I'm leaning on genuinely in this season of life right now, is our example. And I have to rest in that too, that I'm like, if my kids grow up in a home where mom and dad are kind to the janitor at school and the waiter at the restaurant, that is how you treat people. And that's what they feel like is normal, right? We set that normal bar. And so that's one reason we don't give our kids everything they want. So that's one reason we're generous, we're kind to people, like all these things, and you show respect to people. Like, this is the norm of how you live. And so that example isn't always, verbally taught, but our example in it. And I'm saying that to myself right now, because even over Christmas, my husband and I talked, and my parents took us on a beautiful trip with all the kids, and I was like, let's look how they're growing up. Like, when I was their age, we were camping in the backyard, and my kids now are third generation into the Ramseys. And I was like, there's a fear in me that I'm like, oh my gosh, are they gonna be okay? Or am I spoiling them already? And Winston and I talked one night, and he was like, babe, we have to set the bar at a norm. And I think we're doing that. Like, I think they're seeing the norm. And so, but it's a fear I think every parent, has, that we want for our kids not to be swept up by the culture, to your question. But I have to believe us guiding them in their own lives, and also what we show them, has to have power. I pray
And
it
it's
does.
just, I love that answer, because it's such table stakes, I would think, in your home and how you grew up, but it's still, we all wrestle with it. And I think that's just such a comfort, knowing that you wrestle with it. And I think others hearing, knowing that you're wrestling with it as well, is good. And we should lean into that tension. That tension is worth leaning into. It's important enough for us to take a look in the mirror sometimes and say, okay, what are the words we're using around this? How are we talking scarcity, or are we being so permissive? And just kind of continuing to wrestle through it, understanding that it's never going to be perfect. But, and this is what I just love about what you write, what Ramsey does, is you bring clarity. And when people have a plan, that gives them confidence, and no plan is going to be perfect, but you got to commit to one and walk it out. And that's where you all are so good. You're just so good about giving people that plan and clarity, and then you can walk with confidence and continue to do a self-assessment, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yep. I think that's a key part, and kind of living that with that open hand, right? That
Exactly.
we're learning as we go, but you actually have a direction you're walking, to your point, that I think is really important.
I want to close with a question. Obviously, we talk a little bit about technology around here, and the Cruze home, lives obviously with some very good habits and being very intentional. And so we want to help people. How can we all create together. Ara wants to create an entire generation of intentional families. And when it comes to technology, obviously your oldest is 8. So I'm assuming, I don't want to assume too much, that they don't have a phone just yet. So how do you all manage phones, technology for yourself and Winston generally in the home? What are some best practices people can learn from you all?
Yeah, we've again, right or wrong, but our kids don't have their own individual device. We did buy last year the Amazon Fire tablets
Mm-hmm.
for trips. So if we go on a
Yep.
plane or we go to Knoxville, where you live,
There you
where the
go.
grandparents are, that's their one time. They can get their headphones and they can download a movie or two and they get it. And they are like crack addicts, Joey. When you get them on that for 2.5 hours, it's the most quiet our van ever is. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So they do those. But once we're home, we put
Yep.
them in a drawer and they don't see it again. So, and they may watch a show or two on TV,
Sure.
throughout the week or that kind of thing. But we've not adapted to the individual screen
Yeah.
that's around all the time. So that's how we've done it. But my husband, he'll probably kill me for even saying this, but over
Okay.
Christmas break, we had some snow days that we both experienced right after school started. And he got out his PlayStation that he has not played in probably 8 years.
Wow.
And
I
they
love it.
downloaded this like princess game on it. And the girls for the first time saw they had no clue that you could like have a remote, it was a whole thing. But what's so crazy, and this world, you're the expert in it. But they ask about it. Can we go play? Can we go play? So I'm like, you open the door a crack during a snow day, and it's a whole thing. So yeah, so we do try to limit screens as much as possible.
Yeah.
And Winston and I, we try to do a good job at night connecting, and him and I just talking, because how easy it is just to be scrolling, and all of that. And our church, who I think you know them well. They've done a digital detox, and we did it really hardcore the first year. And I'm telling you, it was, I still think back to that. I still tell myself I need to go back and do that again, because at night I'm like, I'm a big reader. I love to read. So, I would fly through books, we would talk, you just have this connection, which, all this without it. So it is it's one of those things, it, and then actually practicing it out is what's hard. But when I get home from work and stuff, I really try to. I plug it up. We have a little. I need your box is what I need. But we have a station that has like the end. So I'll stick it in there when I walk in the door.
I love it.
And that kind of thing. But we're not perfect at it of everything. But we try to limit it, because it's a wild world, and the phone thing scares the crap out of me. So I can't even talk about it. I'm like, I don't even know what I don't even know what we're going to do.
Well, the mere fact that and it's just like with money, the mere fact that you are modeling it well, that you have a place for it, and you and Winston spend time away from your phones, connecting with each other, and you're teaching them the value of it. It's the exact same thing, the exact same principles behind it. That you talk about with money is where we say it all the time. Our kids are going to mimic what we model. So we're modeling a good relationship with our devices that we want our kids to mimic someday. And it's the same. It's same with finances, and it's why we have to be talking, tying back to finances, talking from a very young age with our kids, modeling it well for them, being aligned as parents. And I'm just so grateful for you talking to all ages about this. It's so important. This. You have such a strong voice that people listen to, and you are delivering up slices of financial peace to people, which we all appreciate.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks, Joe. And thanks for all the work you guys are doing. You're on that end of life. You're helping so many families, so many of my friends. I personally have talked to me about it and how much they love you guys. So thanks for all you guys do.
I appreciate that. Okay, we got a lot of places people can go get Rachel Cruze resources. RachelCruze.com, Cruze. I want everybody, if you have a young child, or if you know somebody who has a young child, get a copy of I'm Glad for What I Have, and begin that conversation early. You have multiple other books. You find those on RachelCruze.com. 3 podcasts. Is that right, Rachel?
I know. Yes. Yes.
Rachel Cruze Show. Let's see. The Ramsey Show, Smart Money Happy Hour. What am I missing? We'll drop all, obviously the Ramsey website. We'll drop all this in the show notes, but what have I missed?
No, that's great. That's everything. Yeah, it's all there. Social media, we're there too. And so just lots of content, you can Google, do whatever you need to do, but we're here for you.
And you alluded to some of the tools. I love the Every Dollar app that you mentioned as well. So everybody go check all that out. And Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. It was great to see you.
Yes, you as well, Joey. Thanks for having me.